Hi, everyone. My name is Ellie Smart. I am the founder of Clean Cliffs Project. Our mission is to raise awareness about plastic pollution through adventure. And I'm so excited to be on this interview today and talking a little bit about how I came up with the idea to do Clean Cliffs and have built it to what it is today.
First question. Since you're going to be inspiring many young women with this interview, as I'm sure you already have with Clean Cliffs and a million other things, who was your biggest role model when you first started as an entrepreneur?
So my story, I would say, is like a little bit interesting when it comes to like who inspired me. Think, I mean, there's the general, like, I would say someone I really looked up to is Oprah. I feel like she does a lot of different things and it was really cool. And I had heard a few of her speeches. So I loved her and she was awesome. Um, on another side note, like, I don't necessarily look up to the Kardashians, but I saw what they were doing. It was like they were this normal family that somehow has a million businesses now and use their platform to build things. So I wouldn't necessarily say like they inspired me in this like motivational way, more in this like, oh, like look what they did and what they accomplished. And I thought that was kind of cool. Super random. I feel like no one ever would say that. But then also, so like in my niche of like Clean Cliffs, for me, there was actually no one in the field doing what I was doing. So it was almost like a lack of someone to look up to that made me come up with the idea of Clean Cliffs and move forward with it. So it was almost like a little bit of like not having someone to look up to and to help out with the issue of plastic pollution in the world.
Definitely. That's really impressive. You started it without anyone else in the field. So now with Clean Cliffs, do you have a mentor you look up to, or are you still kind of the only one in the space?
So with like the issue just of plastic pollution in general, there's obviously a ton of different people doing some really amazing things. There's there's so many companies. You see a big range of companies whose sole purpose is to like do cleanups all around the world. For Oceans is huge. That's someone that when I was initially starting up, I really looked up to their company and tried to kind of not copy what they were doing, but like look at how they were doing things and kind of mimic that. It's worked really well for them. If you don't know who they are, they sell the little bracelets made out of plastic. And every bracelet picks up a pound in the ocean. And then there's other companies like athletic wear who make their products out of recycled plastic bottles. So there's in the realm of plastic pollution, there's so many people doing so many different kinds of things. But I am a professional cliff diver as well, and so I work in this field of adventure. And within that community, I really didn't see anybody doing anything. People would talk about it. It was a big thing of like, we hate these people that trash all these beautiful spots. And people would do cleanups on their own, but there really wasn't an initiative that people in the community could go to. So that's kind of what led me down the path of, okay, maybe this is something that I can now do. I don't even
Awesome.
know if that's your question. I just went on a little
No,
bit of a rant.
yeah. So if you could go back in time to when you first started your company and give a piece of advice to yourself, especially being one of the first ones in the space, what would you say?
I would say don't be afraid to do it. Just go for it. Like, it doesn't matter if it ends up being huge or not. Like, you won't know if you don't go for it. I think for me, when I first started Clean Cliffs, to be honest, I was like, I didn't want to be known as the like trash girl who was like promoting picking up trash. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was scared that like people would not support it or not want to be involved, or they would think it was dumb. And honestly, I really didn't push it very hard in the beginning. We started it in 2017 and we're just now really starting to push it a lot farther. And it's hard because we do a lot of different things. So finding the right time, and now with COVID, all of our schedule this year got canceled. But my biggest advice is like, go for it. At the end of the day, you learn from your mistakes. And so make the mistakes, adjust your ideas, change, develop, and eventually you'll get where you're meant to go.
Definitely. That is a great piece of advice. Um, so thinking back again to first starting your company, what would you say is the most important first step or the most important thing you have to do in the initial process of building a company?
Honestly, the most important step I find is just like follow through. So many people have ideas, and honestly, whatever idea you come up with, someone's probably had it. But the difference between being an entrepreneur and not is taking that step to follow through. So, like for me, people talked about, creating some sort of like initiative like Clean Cliffs. Like so many people in the community talked about it, but nobody did it. And so I was the first to actually say like, okay, we're doing this, put a name to it, start making plans, start small and then grow it. So really the first step is just committing to take that risk to do it. It doesn't mean you have to invest $1 million. You can literally, like, I didn't have $1 when I started. Like it started as a like let me get my friends to come with me and do a beach cleanup and tell people we're called Clean Cliffs. Like that's how it started. And so that's, to me, that's the most important thing, and that's what differentiates someone who's bound to be an entrepreneur from the kind of normal person who doesn't pursue that.
Definitely. I hope all these girls take that to heart. That's what Sweet's all about. So what would you say are the most difficult or maybe disappointing parts of entrepreneurship that you weren't necessarily expecting before you started your company?
So when I first started Clean Cliffs, I mean, yes, I was a little hesitant, but we had this great idea. We were going to do this documentary, and we were going to, go to every continent and do a cleanup and make a documentary about the topic and raise awareness. And, I put together this super cool like PowerPoint presentation to send to companies like, give me money, let's do this, let's make it happen. And every single company was like, no, not happening. And then that really put me back in my place, and it was like, okay, so no one is supporting this. And that's what happens in the beginning is people don't support it necessarily. They want to see that you're already established or already have so many followers or already met so many marks with your company. And the truth is, the beginning part and getting people to buy into your idea is the hardest. And for like every 100 emails you send out, like maybe one will respond. And it can feel like such a waste of time. But you just have to realize, like, every email you send out that you get a no, or proposal you send out that someone says no, you can ask them, why did you say no? And they can give you feedback like, well, you didn't have this in your presentation and this is what we look for, or something like that. So in the process of all the no's, you kind of learn what leads to a yes. And obviously now, a couple years later, I have a way better idea of how to pitch an idea and get money for a cool project. But I didn't at the beginning, and I would never have learned that if I didn't try.
Right. That makes total sense. Even in a month, I've learned that a million times with Sweet.
Yeah, you tracked the process very, very fast making this, which is awesome.
So on the flip side of that, what do you think is the easiest part of entrepreneurship or maybe the most rewarding?
I think the most rewarding part of being an entrepreneur is the fact that like you are doing essentially what you love. You come up with this idea that you're passionate about, and then you're pursuing it. So whereas, you hear the stories of so many people going to work and hating their job and just waiting for the weekend all the time. As an entrepreneur, like this is your passion. This is like what you love, and it's your idea. So you have way more control over it than you do just working for someone else, which is a really rewarding feeling, seeing everything come together and yourself being successful and accomplishing things. And it doesn't matter how big it is, small to big things, they feel awesome. And it's a feeling you don't get working in a different job. At least for me, it hasn't been. But with that said, I think it's also important to know how to separate your passion from your work. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, for me, it was like day and night. It was like my job was combined with my passion, so I felt like I needed to be constantly working. And I had to learn how to be like, okay, after 8 p.m. computer goes away, like time to like unwind, catch up with friends, do normal things. So that's definitely where the tricky line between the good and bad comes in. But what you start to figure it out, definitely.
That definitely makes sense. So,
I'm sure you've been doing that recently.
yes, a little
Trying to
bit.
work hard, getting off the ground, but also being normal and having a life.
Yeah, I need to take your advice a little. So when you do have those tough times, what do you do when you face the setbacks and what helps you overcome challenges?
So for me personally, I've like had so many setbacks in my life that they're just so annoying, but like they're so necessary. I hate that they are, but they are. And I've just come to learn that every time something is going terribly wrong, it means something awesome is about to happen. So I try to look at it like, okay, I'm sucking it up for this really bad amount of time, but that means something great is about to happen. And so for me, I try to like take that positive spin of like, okay, what can I learn from this situation? Like, this isn't working, and try to figure out why it's not working, what's not working, and how to readjust that plan so that things can move forward better than they're going now. So for me, that's kind of just the way I look at things.
That seems like a pretty good mindset. So when those good things do happen, how do you celebrate when you accomplish something?
So I guess this is for a younger audience. So, in Red Bull cliff diving, what we always do celebrate a win. Since I'm a professional diver as well, is we always pop a bottle of champagne. So don't do that if you're underage. Don't do that. But you could get sparkling grape juice, pop it to celebrate. No, but I think for me to celebrate a good win is like I give myself a break. Like give myself a couple days off to be like, you did it. Because I find if you dive right back into your work after you accomplish something, like you don't take the time to feel rewarded, and then every time you like do something well, then you just get in this habit of having to work harder. And at the end of the day, like you have to stay enjoying what you're doing to be doing it well. And if you're not taking that time off or a day or two off to just like let it soak in, then you're going to end up not liking what you're doing.
This is really good advice. You've done some serious reflecting already. So you started your company very young, which is super impressive. Did you ever feel like your age limited you or helped you as an entrepreneur?
Yes and no. So like for age, yes, I felt like at times people didn't take me as seriously. They were like, "Oh, she's, 20 and she doesn't know what she's doing." But at the same time, I also found that people would be like, "Well, she's 20, she doesn't quite know what she's doing yet, so I'll help her." And so there's that fine line. You will find good people that are like understand that maybe how you're pitching an idea isn't 100% like per the book, like how you're supposed to do it, but they'll also realize that you're young and you are passionate and you are pursuing something, and that's very rare for a young man or woman to do. And so those passionate people will step in and give you that advice and help you and support you and lead you in that right direction. So I think it's a little bit of mindset too. Like if you're worried about being too young, like people are going to sense that. But if you go in with that like confidence and passion, then like they're gonna see that. So it's a little bit of like how you choose to present yourself in those situations.
Yeah, it seems like the entrepreneurship space is changing a little with more young entrepreneurs. They're being trusted a little more, seeing what young people have done so far. That all makes sense for sure.
When I met you, I didn't know how. I thought you were like 25. So if
Thank
you
you.
presented yourself that way, it's important, and it makes a huge difference. And it's just a level of like confidence within your own ability that's so important.
Yeah, totally.
Make
Um,
it till you.
so, how do you address gender and diversity in your workplace in diving and with Clean Cliffs?
So I mean, I'll just say like I might have like a more controversial stance on this. I have just like I get that women aren't always, you know, employed as much or make the same salaries. I know that that is real, but I don't choose to believe that that limits me. So I don't look at it and see myself any different than a man. I look at my job in my industry and I will look at what the best men are making, and I don't want to accept less than that. So in a way, like how you present yourself to other people, and what you allow people to say or do or how they're going to treat you, that's how they're going to treat you. So if you go in like thinking, oh no, I'm not going to get paid as much because I'm a woman or whatever, it's almost like I feel like you radiate that sense of self-doubt, and then people see that and then they continue the cycle. So the approach I take is just, I'm equal, I'm capable, and my gender has nothing to do with it. And so I just have found personally that by not acknowledging it and doing what I feel I'm capable of, and requesting what I feel I deserve as compensation for it, has been the best way to be treated equal.
I wish everyone thought that way.
Yeah, I feel like, and like, don't get me wrong, like I know there's issues, and I know like this can be a controversial topic. It's just like that's just the approach like I found works for me best.
Yeah. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have a lot more flexibility since you're your own boss. You get to decide your payment and how people see you and view you. That all
Yeah,
works well into this.
definitely.
So, throughout your career for the past few years, what have been your most satisfying moment or moments?
So for me, I would say the like most satisfying moment was when Red Bull created a documentary about Clean Cliffs last year. For me, that was kind of like a really exciting like milestone. It was like this small idea that I had, to start this, you know, company. At every Red Bull stop that I was competing in, I would do cleanups or do speeches or do things just on my own, in collaboration in a way with Red Bull. And the first couple of years, like they didn't acknowledge it. They didn't. I didn't like collaborate directly with Red Bull in any way. And then once they realized like what I was doing was actually like making an impact and people were following along, they collaborated with us, and now we do cleanups and educational workshops at every Red Bull cliff diving event we go to, which is really exciting and really cool and a great way to raise awareness. And so when Red Bull made that documentary about all the different things we've done, it was just kind of like, wow, this is real. Like this is a real thing that people are supporting. And so to watch yourself like talking about it on camera is really weird. And I've had people send like Snapchats when it's been on TV and they've seen it, and it's just like, it's really surreal. It's a really cool feeling. So for me, that was definitely like the highest moment, and what made it really worth it.
That is amazing.
Thanks.
So, the last question to finish up is if you could share a funny story from your career as an entrepreneur.
Oh, funny story. That's a hard one. That's a really good question. I mean, I think there's so many funny stories. I think looking in the moment, maybe things weren't funny, but now they are. I think I kind of the story I talked about before. I like sent a proposal for like $500,000 to companies, like as this girl who's never done anything, and everyone's saying no. And so, like to me now, that's hilarious. Like I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah, that's a really tough question. Oh, and what would you say the funniest story of Clean Cliffs is? Our co-founder is in the background. He just walked in the room, actually. Oh, so we did do a little teaser, for that video that we were trying to promote the documentary, and our cinematographer was on board, and they were. Are you talking about the one on the ship? Yeah. So we took this big what even was it? A boat, a sailboat, like a big sailboat. And we went around the Mediterranean for 7 days doing cleanups every day and documenting it all. And our cinematographer was flying his drone and it ran out of battery and it was going to auto land into the middle of the water, which had all of our footage from like the whole week. So he gets in this little dinghy boat and he goes, and it's maybe like, let's say like 200 meters away. And he gets in this little dinghy boat and he goes about 100 meters and the dinghy boat dies. And so this drone is coming down all this footage and he just starts sprinting and like he took this like last stroke and like grabbed the drone before it hit the water. And it was just like the most ridiculous like camera save I've ever seen in my whole life. So that was funny. Looking back, definitely that was something I don't want to experience again. It was the most stressful thing ever. But
So he
yeah,
saved it.
he saved it. And then
Wow.
after he downloaded all the footage, and our other cameraman flew his drone too low, like a couple hours later, and a wave ate it. So we lost some of the footage, just not all of it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, don't fly drones low in the ocean. Not a good idea.
That is quite the story for on the spot. That was a good
Okay,
one.
I'm glad that counts. I probably wouldn't have thought of that on my own. But yeah, there's lots of crazy stories like that.
Well, do you have any other last pieces of advice for the girls for starting their own companies?
I mean, I know I've kind of like probably said it already, but just go for it. Just do it. I mean, at the end of the day, who cares if it doesn't work, you learn something and you can, and your next adventure or your next idea, you'll have more knowledge and tools and experience, because at the end of the day, like failing is not a bad thing. It's like just a very necessary step to get where you want to go. So, I mean, the younger you start, the more you learn. I went to the University of California, Berkeley. I was a media studies major. I focused on marketing and social media. And to be completely honest, at like 99.9 of the things I've learned has been in my normal life, not in school. I'm not saying don't go to school. School's great. Go to school. It's good. But my point is that real life experience that you need as an entrepreneur specifically, you learn from trial and error, totally. So you have to go for it. You have to try it out. You have to learn, you have to fail, and you have to grow on your own. It's definitely worth it, I would say.
I could not agree more. That's great advice. Thank you so much for taking this time today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to share it on Sweet.
You're so welcome. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to watch all the other interviews.
Thank you.